Are you tired of watching shows that only give you general social media theory and expect you to figure out how to apply it to your own industry? Join us for this week's episode of Social Chatter, the industry's longest running social media marketing news talk show. Not only will you learn the latest breaking news, but you'll also gain practical advice on how to apply it. Now here's your host, Christian Karasiewicz.
Hey everyone, welcome to Social Chatter, your weekly social media marketing news talk show. This is episode 263. I got to get this right. 263 with myself, Jim Fuhs, and guest Chelsea Peitz. We've got a lot of great news topics we want to talk to you about this week. In particular, we're going to be talking about some new messenger features. So Facebook's going to be unifying Facebook Messenger and Instagram a lot more. So they're adding some features there. We're also going to be talking about some Instagram Reels updates. And in addition to that, we've got some great tools as well we want to share with you. We're also going to be talking with Chelsea about how to tap into direct messaging on Instagram, because a lot of people now with Facebook unifying all these platforms, you'll be able to contact people in multiple places. So we want to talk about some safe ways, I guess that's the right word to use to do this. So Jem, feel free to bring yourself on.
Good morning. It is morning, Christian, right?
It is morning, yes.
It's actually morning for you, right?
It is, yes.
So for those of you that may not know and wonder why Christian has this really cool looking chandelier behind him, Christian is now back in the United States. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
It's not a secret anymore. Yeah, so now excited that we're now in the same time zone, so we won't have that crazy time difference that I know at times, but I'm sure you and the wife are still adjusting, and so is your dog.
Definitely some adjusting, yeah.
The dog has probably had the easiest adjustment, I'm guessing, or has it?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. So, yeah.
So a lot of good topics. You wanna bring Chelsea on and tell everybody about her?
Yeah, let's bring Chelsea on. Let's have her actually tell everyone about herself.
Okay. Awesome. Hey, Chelsea, good to see you.
Good morning. I'm so excited to be here, and congratulations on episode 263. I can't believe that. That's a lot of episodes. So congratulations for sticking with it. That's amazing.
So I know you and I've chatted quite a bit, but I don't know if you want to give viewers a little bit about you. Maybe tell them what you do. For example, I know at one point I know you were big into Snapchat. I know that's changed at some point. I think you're now doing a lot of Instagram, so maybe give people a little update.
Absolutely. Well, my niche is specific in the real estate industry, which actually is a really large industry, but sounds small to a lot of people. And yes, I do have an affinity for Instagram, which is funny. I was never an Instagram fan up until a few years ago. And the reason that I sort of morphed into that was due to Snapchat because of the stories feature. And when they took it and put it into Instagram, I started going over there and really learned to sort of appreciate what Instagram offered that Snapchat didn't at the time. And I do a lot of Instagram stories. I'm testing out Instagram Reels. Really excited to be talking about that today and some of the new features. So yeah. I'm really happy to be here and talk about the latest and greatest having to do with social media news.
Fantastic. So Jim, what have you been up to? I guess, what is it, 2 weeks maybe?
Yeah. Well, because last week we had a show without you, Christian. Hopefully you got to watch it and weren't too shocked with anything we talked about.
I'm still catching up.
We had a great show with Mary Fane Brandt last week. She did great. Things have been crazy busy. Yesterday and the day before was Prime Day. And of course, I have an Amazon Live show, so that was a lot of fun. That was I'll have to tell you about that later. But that was some crazy times on Amazon. So that
definitely
people didn't know that. But some new changes with Facebook and Instagram Messenger. Yeah, you guys ready to talk about that?
Sure,
absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, so I'm going to share the article. Hopefully, you guys are seeing that. So you may have noticed, and I noticed, and I guess I should have read this article sooner, that we've got this new color, right, on our messenger, and I'm like, why is it
no longer blue?
Because it's no longer blue, and you know what? I don't like the color. That's just me. I mean, what do you guys think?
Oh, Jim, I love it. That's funny. So I'm wondering, do you like change in general? Is the question.
I don't mind change. It's just that
Mhm.
it's a little too bright for me. I mean, my brand colors are blue, so maybe I would
Mm,
prefer to stick with the blue, or give me an option.
right.
Hmm.
I mean, they give us options within Messenger to change the color,
Right.
so maybe it would be nice if because I think even Instagram, right? Aren't they doing this thing with their 10th anniversary where you could even change how the app looks? But I wasn't going to change it back to like the very beginning. So don't worry there, Chelsea. Um, so we've got this new the future is now. Where have we heard that before? Um, and so this is the new look, and we've talked about this simplifying things. 1 billion users around the world are on Messenger. I mean, that's crazy as it is. Of course, there's over 2 billion people on Facebook, and they've definitely been doing some changes. Of course, I forgot to share. I don't know if you want me to play this video or not, Christian. I did forget to share the audio though. But it's kind of it's about a
Yeah, go
one.
ahead. Yeah, actually, yeah, remove it and pull it back off. Yeah, and bring it back in.
Yeah, let's do that.
This way people can actually watch this video and see what it's about. So basically what we've got going on is Facebook, in their effort to merge Instagram and Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp, they're rolling out a whole bunch of new features to the platform for cross communication. So I think this video actually will help sum that up, right, Jim?
Yep, I think so. All right, here we go. Hopefully, you guys will hear this. Wow, that's pretty crazy.
Okay, so we're getting rid of the blue. Okay, so what else we got?
Yeah.
What are the features they adding? I guess. Yeah, that's the key thing. I think.
I think the big thing is now you're going to be able to do this cross-app communication. You've got these virtual rooms. You can do the whole watching together thing.
Okay.
I mean, Chelsea, what do you think though in regards to this idea of? I mean, I'm an iPad user, so maybe I would be more likely to do it on the iPad. But to have multiple people in my little phone messenger, I just think seems like a lot. I mean, what do you think?
I think that what you have right here on the screen is what stands out the most for me, that top one, more than messaging. I think that's where this sort of, if I may even call it a rebrand, is headed. Facebook really wants to be your television. It wants to be your text message. It wants to be your email. And the more that they connect people through that messaging platform, the more often you're going to be using the product. So I think it's a natural progression for them to make messaging more, I suppose, engaging. They have the virtual rooms now. You can do sort of like that Zoom-esque type of virtual rooms. You can now, I believe, watch videos together. I think you can even share your screen, which I think would be pretty interesting. And so a lot of those are newer features. Now, I don't know. Maybe I don't like change. Maybe I don't like change. But I feel like I kind of like having my inboxes separate. I don't know why. And I think it's maybe because they've always been that way. So maybe I just need to open my mind a little bit and take a look at that. I know Instagram has been testing a few things, not only Messenger, but they're testing, I've read, possibly featuring Instagram stories on Facebook. So, it's kind of like, I think they want us to consume as much content as possible on whatever platform we happen to be on.
Well, you bring up an interesting point, Chelsea, and I think even sometimes, I think we've always looked at these as separate platforms. It's kind of like I'll tell people that, as an example, uh, maybe Facebook isn't where your business needs to be. You're a very visual business. I think, we were talking about earlier real estate. I really think Instagram is a great platform for real estate because people want to see the inside of a house or see these short
Hmm.
clips of features of the house. So, in a sense, like, okay, well, maybe we're connected on Instagram and connected on Facebook. Those are two separate accounts. So now are you going to get confused as to which is which, or is it like, oh, this is the same person? Because tags never carried over before from Instagram to Facebook or vice versa.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of with you, and it's like, I think you're going to make me have to think more.
Yeah, I'm easily confused, so I don't want to be easily confused.
Yeah. That's a great point. I think, you know, are we going to have two separate, and then why do I need two separate inboxes?
Right.
So yeah, what do you think, Christian?
I think overall, I go back to Chelsea's point, which is people like having distinct inboxes, and you have Facebook Messenger and you have Instagram, and then you also have Twitter DMs and whatnot as well. And so the thing is, I'm glad people can contact businesses and whatnot in different places, but having everything in multiple places, I think, is just, it eats away at your time, I think. So I'm glad they're doing this. I'm glad they're rebranding. Maybe this will be part of the bigger picture, which will eventually, I could see one of these apps going away potentially. That's my guess, by the way, there. I mean, here's another thing.
Which one do you think that might be?
Oh, that's going to make a lot of people mad. That's going to make a lot of people mad.
I know it's going to make people mad, but here's the thing. I actually think it would be Facebook. Because if you look at the color switch, okay, so we've gone from blue to the Instagram color. Okay, so there's the Facebook going away, for example. I think WhatsApp will also probably go into this as well at some point. That's my take. I think that Facebook would go away actually at some point. They will become the parent company, and just like there are parent companies of just pretty much like industries and just major corporations, for example, and it's a brand of the company, but the company is no longer the focus. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Absolutely, it does.
That's my take.
What's funny is because I'm going to bring this over into LinkedIn just for the moment, because LinkedIn just came out with stories, and I've been playing with stories over there, and I've been polling my community over there for a number of months, asking them, what do they think? Are you excited about it? Are you not excited about it? And now that it's here, I'm doing the same thing. And I have to say, the majority of people that I speak with are not excited. They feel that it is becoming more like the other social platforms. And so I feel like that could translate too in the discussion we're talking about here, that people who are, I love Instagram, it's my favorite place. I go to Instagram because I don't care for Facebook as much, or vice versa. That's going to be really interesting. I kind of like your prediction there, though. I think that could possibly happen.
Well, and I think you have a lot of people, I know, friends in my circle that are either they're just not on Facebook as much. They're deleting the Facebook app from their phone. There's just so much. I almost feel like sometimes, like I used to look at it this way. I feel like Facebook, you get a lot of negative energy going on in there, especially right now with the elections coming up. Where Instagram, I felt like, was my safe space, because I'm just looking at pictures and I'm not getting stuff in my feed that's going to upset me, unless I guess you would have to look for it, because I can't think of a time where I've been on Instagram where I said, oh my gosh, this is horrible, I'm unfollowing this person. I mean, you get the weirdos in the, that try to message you. But aside from that, I mean, can you think of a time, Chelsea, where you've been like, oh my gosh, this stuff on Instagram is just upsetting me?
No, I agree with you. I personally have the same experience with a very positive community there. And I think that's because it's very in tune with our behavior, our individual likes and behaviors. I mean, do I see a lot of videos of cute puppies all day? I sure do. And I seek them out. I love looking at a cute dog to brighten my day. So I have a lot of that in my feed, and I'm perfectly okay with it. Yeah, I have different experiences on different platforms, yes.
Yeah. So I think that. Go ahead, Christian.
I was going to say also, the other thing though, I think is Instagram sort of reduces that, I don't say distraction maybe, but because you have a much more it's a mobile first platform, I think you see less content there than you do on Facebook. just throwing that out there. I mean, it could be just the design aesthetic, but it feels different, even though it's essentially just a place to consume content. But it feels different. So
well, and just the way it's set up. I mean, and I think Chelsea, I'm sure, is going to talk more about this a little bit later. But when you look at where do most people now spend their time on Instagram, it's not even necessarily the feed; it's in stories. And as I'm sure we're going to find out from Chelsea, because I'm very curious about like the rise of Reels and how that's having an impact. So this is all this short content, consumption, as opposed to looking in at the feed and seeing these people's posts that go along with the photos. So it's definitely changed, and it's it's a very visual, and I think if anything, the stories and the Reels makes things much more creative and interactive as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
definitely.
So yeah.
Okay.
Any other thoughts on this? I mean, I guess I haven't looked at my Instagram Messenger since all this happened to see if it.
Yeah, I just got the new logo this morning, and it turned while I was actually using it. So I'm like, oh my gosh, what just happened? So I just got mine, and to be honest, I went in there and it looks the same to me. So I don't know, what might be so different about it, but yeah. So I just got it this morning.
So yeah, so maybe step one is just the look of the of the messenger. So that's definitely interesting. Yeah. So I guess Christian, I guess our next topic. Let me see here.
Yeah.
We're gonna go to. I gotta make sure I find it. We were gonna go with, I believe. Let's. Do you want to talk about the audio features for Reels? How's that sound?
Yeah, that's fine.
I would love to talk about that.
So let me find here. Okay, yeah. So yeah, this is really interesting too. So everybody knows that Instagram is obviously Reels is. I don't want to say that it's a knockoff of TikTok, but
Oh, you can say that. It is. You can say that. Yeah.
But they did this to Snapchat, right? Which we talked about earlier was something you used. But they already have 1 billion plus people on the platform. So, Reels has come in. They're continuing to add to it. So I think they're adding this new audio feature, and you can save sounds for your clips, which I think is pretty cool. And I like the fact that you can even share audio pages, which by DM, right? That's pretty cool. Audio browser, search for sounds and music, and the Reels clips that are using them. So this is really, I think so far, and maybe it's changed, my one disappointment up to this point was that my business page did not have the audio, but my creator Instagram did. So I don't know if that's changed because I don't use it enough to really be sure with it. They also increased the length to 30 seconds. And of course, there's still, I think, up in the air this whole thing about TikTok potentially getting banned in the U.S. And so, it's a great opportunity for Instagram to capture some of that audience. I mean, what are your thoughts on this, Chelsea? Because I know you're definitely the Instagram guru here.
So when Reels came out, of course, I was closely following, and I think Christian will remember back to when we met through Snapchat, and we were doing this. This is like a repeat. I feel like we have gone through this process before, where the diehard Snapchat users were like, "How dare you steal Snapchat and put it into your platform?" And so we're on a repeat of that, right? And so yes, of course, this is as the first initial evolution of it. It's kind of been called TikTok Lite. Okay. I am not a TikTok expert by any means. So I can't really speak to that. I'm a lurker. I like to consume the content there. So when Reels came out, what I was looking at was more of like this product design, kind of what we just talked about with Messenger combining, and what, to Christian's point, sort of this merging idea, getting us used to this merging idea. I personally haven't seen anything like Reels and the push for that and pushing it out to explore by Instagram. They're also testing a dedicated button on the homepage. So that's some big changes they've made, which tells me that they're really trying to go all in, even more so, I think, than they did with Stories and Snapchat. So I think that based on my personal experience with Snapchat and Stories, they came to play and they came to win, and they did, in my opinion. So I don't know if that will happen with Reels, but I think what's interesting is that, now we have all these different types of content we can consume. So what happens to me as a user is I get bored of watching Stories, I go to the feed. I get bored of the feed, I go shopping. I get bored of shopping, I might watch some Reels. So I'm staying in there because there's so many different areas of content types. So I think it's really smart. And I think too, that it's that behavior training as we get used to seeing Reels, more people will try it. They already have such a big built-in audience. The challenge is it's hard to figure out if you've never done it before. That's their only challenge, I think. And so the music feature is going to be a really big deal. I know we're going to talk about Snapchat and music too. But to your point, Jim, you're right. No business accounts have music. You have to be a creator account or a personal to get the music due to copyright issues. And I think that this is really good because what's happening with this music here is that it's going to become a trending thing like TikTok. TikTok is really built on sort of trending music. You can generally get more reach, more virality if you're using a trending song. It's a great way to attract new artists too to the platform to create music for the actual platform. So this is going to be a big deal, and it's not in the way that people think, oh, it's a nice creative touch to add to my reel. It's going to become a trend that will be pushing out different content farther if you jump on these audio trends.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's, do you think they'll add music for businesses? Because I think businesses would maybe be more likely to use it if they could have a little bit more creativity.
Well, I would love for them to, as would all the business accounts. And I don't know. And I know that there's some people that have what I call a unicorn account, that they are a business account and they do have music, but generally by and large, from what I understand, it's that copyright issue with the music. So I hope so, because, Reels, you don't need to use music, by the way. Right. You can use your voice and make incredible Reels. And here's the other thing that I want to mention, which I think maybe Joanne just mentioned in the comment there. I don't go to TikTok anymore because people are putting it on Reels. So I'm already in Instagram, and I feel like, Instagram's probably like laughing behind the scenes. Please send us your TikTok content, because then people aren't going to go over there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great point. Yeah. And let's see. And yeah, she also says, hers says has music, but I should stop saying that so they don't take it away.
Absolutely. Don't tell anyone, Joanne.
Right, that's right. So we won't put that in there. So Christian, what are your thoughts on this?
I 100% agree with Chelsea in the fact that this is a big move. This is a good move by Instagram, actually, even though, regardless, of the fact that they are stealing this again from another platform. I don't have a problem saying they're stealing this, because they basically are. I think this is a good move by them. And I think that, most of the users anyway who are using Reels, like, they're just taking their TikToks and putting them on Instagram anyway. So I think that's going to slowly deflate the TikTok bubble, I think, at some point. So, I like the move. I like the fact that they are trying to also add some of the features that keep people on TikTok. The other thing, though, to Chelsea's point is, well, you guys asked about, do you think a business will actually get the ability to have music? I don't know if and again, I want to get your thoughts on this. I don't see that happening. I think it's a copyright issue as well. And I think that it also, if I'm like one of those artists, this is where it gets very political, unfortunately. If I'm an artist, I don't necessarily want my music associated with certain brands or certain users. And so, and obviously anybody can be you can be a business if you're just a person, generating any sort of revenue as, your individual. So I think that it will be hard to see this right now for a business to get used to get this feature. I think the only way that it will actually happen where they will get it is if the artist can pick and choose which accounts can actually use their music, because that's a big issue right now with politics. There's a lot of politicians that are utilizing music, at their campaign events and whatnot, and people, the artists are like, well, hey, we don't actually approve of this. We don't want our music played there. I don't think it needs to get that granular, but it does need to get that granular at some point. And I don't know if the artist wants to be like the one, like, well, hey, I got to, go through however many millions of requests, I guess, of people wanting to use their music. So that's my take. I love the fact that they're adding these features. I also like the fact that we're seeing real licensing coming into play for music nowadays. For people, this to get to the Snapchat thing as well. People on Snapchat, there's a feature there as well. We're going to talk about. They have the ability to use music now. Again, Instagram is also leveraging that copyright aspect as well to try to do it the right way. So I like this. I really do. I like the direction this is going.
Awesome. So I think that's definitely interesting. And since we're talking about it, let me see. Let's go ahead and pull up the next topic, and because this is where it all started, right? These are the people that got it taken away from them.
Well, we all learned about patent and unpatenting ideas when that happened.
and that's Snapchat is introducing sounds. If you want, I can play this quick video.
Yes.
It's, all right.
Hello, hello, hello. How's my little lady playing rock and roll? On these days you like popping. I deserve congratulations, 'cause I came out the other side. I've been having. Tell me what you keep. Experience could get you to change. I'm open
And so we've got Snapchat is now has sounds. Hopefully you guys heard that. I think I pressed the audio. Did I press the audio with that?
Oh, it came in. Yes, it came in loud and clear.
Okay, because I didn't hear any complaints. What do you guys think?
I think this is right on par for everything that's happening. I mean, we've really kind of given everyone this cinematic opportunity in their pockets, right? And why not add music? And I think it's another way for these platforms, whether it's Snapchat or TikTok or Instagram, like I said, to work with artists to expand into that potential monetization area. And of course, it promotes more user creativity, give more people the opportunity to create, and hopefully they'll create more content. So I think it's something that we're going to see pretty much everywhere in all the platforms. And I think I'm kind of surprised. And I hadn't really thought about it, but I'm kind of surprised that they hadn't done it sooner. Yeah.
But do you think it's in a sense too late for Snapchat? It's like, are they ever going to really capture their, if you want to call it, the momentum they once had? Because as it was, right? I have a Snapchat account, but I haven't used it in forever. And I think the only reason I logged in recently is because they're involved with Bitmoji, and if you want to use Bitmojis in Canva, you had to log into your Snapchat account. So it's like, I had to go find my password. And then, but now because of TikTok, right, there's so much excitement there. It's kind of like, well, why would I go back to Snapchat if I'm on TikTok? Or if anything, if I'm trying to reach people, you've got the billion plus on Instagram. So they've got some very creative stuff they've done with Snapchat. I mean, the Snap camera, which is probably what several people use, is another thing that they've done. So you feel for them in a way, because they've definitely had some creative people, but they just I guess they weren't quick enough to the punch.
I think that I would be surprised if Snapchat had as much growth as it did at one time, at least, the velocity of where they were at. I don't know if they could ever get back to that area, but I really do still to this day feel, to your point, Jim, the creativity, the AR effects. I mean, I've not seen anything that I can compare it to. on any of the other socials. So I think they really landed the mark of being sort of the innovative company. I think that there's still a lot of people that use it for a very specific reason. They've talked about the fact that, they don't want to be the Facebook, the Instagram. And I think they've done a good job about sort of carving out that niche and keeping it for themselves. I, again, would be surprised to see them kind of rise to where they were at one time. But I have to say, they keep coming out with some incredibly creative camera effects and lenses and sort of lead the way on that piece of it.
Yeah, I mean, Christian, what are your thoughts?
I like the fact that they're finally adding the music aspect, or Snapchat sounds, I guess, as we call it. I bet that probably didn't come out sooner because of licensing issues. There's probably so much red tape behind the scenes that we don't know about. It's probably not as simple as just buying a license and saying, hey, I can use whatever I want. I think that overall, I don't think that Snapchat's going to necessarily get their momentum back. But the thing that has always impressed me about Snapchat, regardless of the platform itself, I love the camera aspect that they use, the lenses. I think that makes it a lot more, makes it more interactive, makes it more fun. And I think that that's something that most of the other platforms really haven't tapped into as much or relied heavily on it. I mean, honestly, I do kind of hope that LinkedIn, for example, start rolling out some of these crazy lenses. I mean, it needs to sort of remain a bit of a pure platform. But I like what they're doing with the camera. I mean, I think Snapchat spectacles, I think they were ahead of their time. The lenses, I like all that. I like the interactivity there, though. But I like the fact that you can then get into doing some really cool things with virtual reality and AR. For example, being able to place a logo on somebody's T-shirt. For example, instead of having to buy merchandise, hey, somebody can put a virtual logo on. They can have, they could make themselves a virtual character, for example. So I see a lot of really strong possibilities there, and especially with a lot more people working from home. I know, Jen, you and I talked about a tool that was very similar, I think, a few weeks ago, I think. Remember that one we talked about where you could do live video and it was like a Zoom call, but you actually were an avatar in your actual Zoom call, yes. But you actually weren't physically on the call. Yeah. So, I think all of that is kind of much to like Snapchat and what they've done to help kind of push things forward. But no, I don't think they're going to get their growth back. Their stock price, it's doing fine, but I don't think their growth is going to be there. Again, I mean, it's also going to come down to who the user is. And I don't know, most people... I don't know if major businesses using Snapchat. I mean, there's a few, yes, but I think that it really comes down to your brand. So don't try and fit yourself, square peg into a round hole. Don't try to fit yourself onto the platform if that's not where users are at, I think. But I like the sounds feature. I think it's a good update.
Yeah, and I think I like what you said earlier about LinkedIn. It's like, and Chelsea, you mentioned too about how they created stories, but it's like, how about fixing groups? Right.
Yeah, exactly.
First.
Right.
But yeah, I think the Snapchat stuff is interesting. I think if anything, I'm more likely, and actually, speaking of AR, Oculus Quest 2 just came out which is actually by Facebook. So we're continuing to see this rise in VR and AR. So maybe somehow Snapchat finds a way in that space, because they do definitely do a good job with those effects but it kind of goes back to, Christian, I know sometimes we talk about on the show, what's the business utility? How is it really going to help the business?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so you think
I think the sounds feature.
Yeah. Oh yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, you go. What
were you saying, Jim?
No, you were starting to say about the sounds feature. I was going to say you're ready to move on to that.
Oh, I was going to say I was going to say the business utility. I mean, right now it's just, I think a business could potentially use it, but I think that they need to make sure that that's where their audience is at. I mean, it's a good feature. I think the one thing I would actually do, and I like Joanne's comment here. She says, I use it to create my videos for Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. That is the business utility, I think, right now for a lot of this, is that if you're someone who struggles with creating content and knowing how to make it unique, there's nothing wrong with round tripping an app For example, and what that means, by the way, to viewers is it means I go into one app, I do one task, I go to another one, I do something else, and then I end up with my finished product.
I'm going to write
And
that
that's where
down.
the
Round
utility, I think,
tripping.
is
I have
effortless.
not heard of that. Round tripping an app. Wow.
I've never heard that either.
Thank you. That's great.
Yeah.
Because I do that a lot. Same with Joanne. I do use other apps to create my content. Often I'm using Instagram stories to create my content for Instagram Reels, which is kind of funny, I think, to most people to hear that, but why not just use Instagram Reels to make it? But yeah, so I think, people get comfortable with a particular type of camera or format. And, some of the features that are available there aren't available in other places. So I like that. That's going to be a new term I'll have to start using. Of course, I'll give you credit, Christian.
Round tripping. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's been a strange trip. Right?
Thank you.
Now you're making me think of the Grateful Dead song, but that's okay. So do you think we have time for one more topic, Christian? Before we go to questions?
Yeah, I think we can get one more in. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Let's do that. Yeah. Where do you want to go?
This is one I think is interesting, and it's something going on in the world of Twitter. And so this is something I had to really think about. So we can now publish your blog post simultaneously as Twitter threads. Because when you think about it, you've got this ability to do 280 characters. So most times a blog post is going to be way more than that. But now this new plugin will actually allow your blog post to publish as a thread. So it will literally split it up, and you'll have a thread that people can read your whole blog post. I mean, I find it fascinating. I'm not sure what to think yet. I don't know if it's one of these that will people take the time to read through all those tweets, or would you still be better directing them in a tweet back to the blog post? I mean, what are your guys' thoughts?
Well, I think what's interesting, I was looking through this article. I'm with you, Jim. I just don't know. I'm not quite sure yet. Is it so different? Is it going to be like IGTV where people are like, yeah, I don't get this. I'm not going to watch a 10-minute video on Instagram. I'm just not going to do it. I don't know. So this will be interesting to see where it goes. But I was reading this article, and what I thought was interesting to note was that this article was mentioning that threaded conversations generally get more reach, and perhaps that would be an advantage to have that as more exposure for your blog and people that may not be following your blog or signed up for it. So I think it's interesting. I don't know if I'm in such a zone of micro quick clip content when I'm in Twitter. I can't imagine reading an entire article, and oftentimes I will click on an article if I do want to read the entire thing. So I'm not sure what will happen with this.
Yeah, and they call it a tweet storm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I guess you're raining down on Twitter with all this content, and are people going to want to put up their umbrella, or are they actually going to enjoy the rain? I mean, what do you think, Christian?
So the couple things, actually, one thing that stands out to me on this is I love the idea of this. It does make me wonder, though, Jem, because you and I talk about this a lot on the Launch Your Live podcast, and it's the fact that do people actually spend the time creating blog posts? I don't really think a lot of people are spending the time creating blog posts. They're just doing micro content. There's a lot more value in doing the long form content. The other thing, though, that stands out to me here as well is that this is primarily, it looks like it's just for WordPress.com. So that would be the free WordPress platform. So I'd want to see if this is for WordPress.org, which is basically for any sort of self-hosted WordPress site. If it was, I think this makes a lot of sense. Now, granted, though, this does mean that you're going to spend, I mean, this is, it's like give and take. You're going to spend more time. If you're actually writing the content, you're going to spend more time writing the content, going through, there's a long checklist of publishing a post. It's not just write the post and hit publish. There's a lot more you have to do behind the scenes to make sure that it works on social and all that sort of stuff. So I think that this is a useful feature. If you're somebody who's going to spend the time doing the writing, it does add another step. But it also saves you a step, because then when you get finished, you don't have to then go find images for certain sections. I could see this being extremely useful, by the way, if I had, and as you should, by the way, if you're writing content, you should have a heading 1, a H1 tag, H2, H3, and so forth. Like a H1 tag is your title of your post. but an H2 tag. And so anything that, for example, is tagged as a H2, this is how I think this might work. Somebody could probably create a tweet storm based off of what those headlines are, because typically H2 tag is a section of a blog post. So that's where I could see this being very useful, because now I don't have to go and copy and paste extra text and write something up. I don't have to go add the images. All of this could be pulled in directly into this plugin, and then I could see this potentially then being pushed out to your channels. That's where I think there's a lot of utility with this. I like it. I like it a lot, actually.
I think, though, Joanne brings up a great point. She goes, I wouldn't want to put my blog post out there that way because I would prefer to get the traffic to my website. And so I think that's actually a great point, because, right, in search, it's really going to be based on your website. Twitter gets pulled into search, but you're probably going to need a lot more traffic through that tweet to get to that content. So that's a really good point by Joanne. So, but yeah, that would be interesting to see if this is only, like you said, on WordPress.com, or if this is something that they get a plugin for any WordPress site.
Definitely. And I'll look that up, but feel free to keep moving things along.
Yeah. So now we want to get to the part of the show where we talk to our guest. And so, Chelsea is, as we would like to say, is an expert in Instagram. At least that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So, Christian, you want to ask the first question?
Sure. Yeah. So, I know today, so we talked a lot about Facebook Messenger and Instagram, and how everything is really sort of starting to merge, I guess. And so the core of this discussion is we want to talk with you about leveraging Instagram direct messages. For example, Instagram direct, and you could even throw in Messenger if you want to. But, I guess the first question for you is, do you think a business can use Instagram direct messaging to grow their presence, or to, potentially generate some leads? Obviously, I know if somebody messages you, yeah, they can go about potentially bringing in some leads and whatnot off of that. But what's your take on that? Can Instagram direct messages be used for business?
Okay, I'm going to say direct messages across all platforms, because I have a pretty strong personal opinion on direct messaging. And for me, I really believe, like, in my mind, this is like a sacred space. And, you don't need my phone number, you don't need my email, but this is where I talk to friends and family, and this is where I create my community and relationships. So do I believe that after you've created a relationship that you can offer value and services and sell through the direct message? I do. However, I am not a fan of a business, including a solopreneur, entrepreneur, or larger business, that the first thing I see in my inbox is either an automated message, or maybe it's not an automated message, but it's, an aggressive sales pitch. Maybe it's a polite spam is what I call it, where they're very nice, very polite, but they're still giving me a sales pitch. And also I'm going to extend it to the over enthusiastic DMer that I don't know yet. So there's different levels of sort of that DM etiquette, I believe. So I think that they are so powerful that it's the number one way to develop a relationship that, of course, could lead into business and referrals. But because it's so critical for me and how I've grown a really authentic community, I'm very wary of businesses over automating and making it. This is why we don't like email. This is why I don't like email. It's just a bunch of junk email coming in, and I stop looking at it after a while. So I think that if you are a business that is going to use the direct message on any platform, it's going to require proactive attention and engagement first. And oftentimes that's going to have to be a human. So these companies might have to hire a human being to be the person who's actually engaging and supporting other people's content before jumping in, even with the polite pitch.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's where the struggle is, right, with email and messaging, because the problem of not having an email list is if you get kicked off of one of these platforms, you just lost all your connections. And so I think
Mhm.
That's really a tough one. Now, have you dealt with text message marketing at all yet, Chelsea? Or, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I get a lot of text message marketing. And in my mindset, I almost think of like text message and email sort of as the same. And I think that's why I'm so protective of my inbox on DMs. And certainly all of us have an agenda. All of us in the business world, we want to do business with other people. I'm not saying that that's not appropriate. What I am saying is that if you really want to get the maximum out of your content and get the most reach, those interactions behind the scenes matter, because oftentimes if somebody sends me spam, even if it's polite, I report them. And guess what? If you get reported multiple times, your content's not going to go very far. So you may not even know you've gotten reported.
Yeah.
And so those are really important things. And it even extends into tagging people. Tag people that are relevant to the conversation, that are likely to respond, because guess what? If I untag myself because it's irrelevant to me, or if most of those people don't reply or leave a comment, now you've just impacted your algorithm. So the same, I think, rules apply in that direct message. And if you change that mindset and say, especially with stories, and now you're just having conversations where people are specifically telling you what to talk to them about. If I am posting about my dog, I want you to say something about my dog. And now we're in a conversation in a private one-to-one message that could easily lead into, at some point, a discussion about whatever the business is. So text message marketing, it's annoying, but guess what? I have an app now that goes through everything, my incoming messages, my text messages. So I'm paying to not be bothered.
So what app is that, by the way? Is it Unroll.me by chance, or is it other one?
I have that one. I have a bunch of them. This one is called Robo Killer, and it starts to learn with AI, like if they're spoofing numbers, or if people are, if they're spam numbers. And so instead of even going to a voicemail, because I know your iPhone can kind of sort through those unknown and potential spammers, this takes it to the next level. It will also tell you, for example, like I had a delivery that was coming, and it will ask the person who it is and what company. And so it actually said, this is blocked, but it's this person from this company. So I called them back. So it does have some drawbacks, because I do have people that are legitimate people calling. And if I don't know that number, it will send them to, a specific type of voicemail. And it even has voicemail where you can send them to a voicemail of famous people, or people that sound like famous people, and like they're actually having a conversation. So if it's a telemarketer, they say hello, and then they start having a conversation. I know, it's terrible. They're just doing their job.
I saw it on the news. It actually looked pretty funny, because I know when we used to have a landline, because my wife has had this number before we got married, and we'd get these phone calls, and I just started having fun with it, since I'm not on that phone, and I'd just be like answering it, and they'd be like asking, is Patty there? I'm like, no, Patty's not here. And they're like, it's like, and they wouldn't believe me. And I was like, well, who are you? It's, and they get all angry with me, but I was just having fun with it, because it's like, I'm not buying anything.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I like this idea of being able to, like, all of a sudden they think they're talking to someone, and they're just getting, hey, because they were trying to waste our time.
I paid for the upgrade, and I picked Cher to be the voice, and so I have Cher or somebody pretending to be Cher, obviously, talking to them when they call.
So Christian, we got another question for Chelsea.
We do, yes, actually. So, and maybe this, I don't know, do we want to rephrase this question, Chelsea? I'm not sure. But, I said, hey, how can businesses safely slide into a DM on Instagram that's a direct message? I don't know. Maybe we want to rephrase that. I don't know, or maybe we want to explain kind of what that means.
Yeah,
if there are any examples you want to share.
Yeah, I think that that's a phrase used and commonly used in the Instagram world. And, the idea is just like what we were talking about, yes, our contact information is available. Yes, people, have an agenda, especially in sales, and we don't blame them for that. We all are selling something, whether it's ourselves or a product. What I might recommend instead is, I don't think that DMing someone is a bad thing to do. I think that there are other things that you might do, kind of like working out. I might stretch for 5 minutes before I jump on my bike, before I get to my max capacity in my run, I'm warming up. So it's kind of like warming up. And if I were a company that was attempting to get someone's attention, I would think about how I could be a super fan of their content and highlight them. And I noticed this happened to me the other day, a company that I'm not super familiar with, but I recognize their name. They shared one of my pieces of content. And so I said, oh, that was really nice. Thank you. I appreciate that. So, kind of sharing or shouting out other people's content, highlighting them, getting to know them and supporting their content and having a human conversation is I think the beginning stages. That's the stretching. That's the warm up before the actual run or the bike ride. And I think we all know that, as long as you've tried that and you've showed up and you're being a polite pitcher, I had this happen the other day where somebody was very polite. I responded politely back. I said, thank you so much for the information. At this time, I'm not interested. And then they sent me links and said, well, in case you change your mind, I'm like, you lost me. You lost me right there because we were having a nice exchange and then you still sent me your links. Yeah. So know when to stop too. Know when to not go farther. And you know what? It is a numbers game. A lot of times in sales, if you send X amount of messages, you will get people that reply and you'll get appointments and you'll make sales. That's just how it works. So it really just depends on what your comfort level is. For me personally, I like to build the relationship first and then, provide the value.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's really important. Yeah, because
Great.
I'm getting so many spammy connection requests, or they connect and then the next thing I want to do is pitch and have a conversation. Get to know me first. It's like, how do you know what I need if you haven't had a conversation with me?
Exactly.
So Christian, are we ready to go to tool time?
So we'll make sure we include that in the. Definitely, yeah. We'll make sure we include that in the blog post recap as well. All of the examples and tips that Chelsea shared as well. So let's move on to tool time. Jem, do you want to bring everything up?
Yes. And so here.
Okay, so let's start. Which one do you guys want to start with, actually, Jem?
We'll start with only tweets, which is quite interesting.
So.
And let me pull this down. I've got it up here. Yeah, so this actually looks like a way to and I love Twitter. So if you want to support me, maybe I'll have to sign up. So you can support the creators you love directly on Twitter. I mean, so it's really because Chelsea, I always say Christian always finds this stuff. I don't know where he finds it, but he's always coming up with new tools.
He does have always the best new tools, the best new apps, the best new tools, because I haven't heard of a lot of the tools that he sends. I'm like, where are you finding these things? Right. Thank you for keeping us in the know.
Yeah. So this,
totally.
These are creators are driving conversations on Twitter. That's obviously, but. They can't support themselves on the platform. It's got to be off platform. This allows you to support these creators directly as well. And so you become a supporter. So this is really fascinating. It looks like you have to apply for it. And then you can even create it for your community. And, it also looks like it goes across some platforms as well. You can see there, Instagram, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, a few others. I'm not sure what those symbols are. Maybe and then you have, 90% goes to the creator, 10% goes to the creator fund. So definitely something worth checking out. I think, did you get a chance to play with this yet, Christian? Or did you apply? Or
I have not applied yet. I'm not anywhere near the level that I need to be able to apply. But here's the thing. I don't know if you had a chance to check out the demo that's there. If you click on the demo option, actually try demo.
Okay.
And so if you sign into Twitter, you'll be able to see I almost want to compare it like this. It's almost like a Patreon account where someone can go and pay for access to certain things, but this is primarily through Twitter. I mean, you have to obviously. I think if you have a big audience on Twitter, this would be useful. If you're somebody who has a really small audience, you're not very active on the platform, you may make a few cents, a few bucks or something off it, but I wouldn't put all my eggs in one basket if that's the case. You want to make sure you're actively using the platform, I think, a lot. Again, though, I mean, I like the fact that it's doing essentially what Twitter doesn't necessarily do a good job at, which is helping you monetize. I think a lot of people still have that, association of Twitter that it's a bunch of spam a lot of times. And so I think it's hard to actually get traction on Twitter, but it is primarily what a lot of news sites and whatnot use for, their articles and conversations and whatnot. So this might be a good way if you can, get featured in some articles, some big articles, and then you can drop this on your account. You could potentially then monetize your audience. Anything else you guys want to add on this one? I mean, I don't think there obviously is no price really. I mean, the only thing you're paying for is the 10% towards the creator fund and then 90% towards the creator, but no actual fee that you have to pay to actually use this. You just have to get your audience up, which I think it's mainly your time, I guess, building that presence. But anything you want to add on this tool, Chelsea or Jen?
Yeah, I think I would agree with you. It sounds to me like sort of a Patreon type of fund. And for me, I mean, other than just really wanting to support someone because I enjoy their content or they provided value, I ask myself what kind of content I might pay for. And I don't think there's a lot of content I would pay for, especially micro content. So that makes me wonder sort of what would a lot of people, pay for this? And to your point, it sounds like you'd probably have to have a fairly large audience to monetize that with.
Well, and I think the other thing I would wonder, since this isn't like officially, a Twitter sponsored program, will they run into some issues at some point with the Twitter API and doing these sort of things? And I know a couple of people that I actually support through Patreon are, very big Twitter users. I mean, Madeline Scalar has a Patreon account. And I get more value out of that because being a part of her Patreon community, she gives us things that we wouldn't get otherwise. So I'm not really sure, obviously have to look into this more. Does this actually, allow you to do more in regards to as that creator getting supported to that audience?
Very good question. I mean, I think that I kind of agree with both of you. I mean, just like if I'm going to support somebody, I have to look at what the value is I'm going to get from them. And also I look at it, I think you're going to start to see a lot more people try to use these kinds of programs only because, like, for example, a lot of the affiliate sites are being cracked down on, using any sort of affiliate marketing. Like Apple and Google both are down on tracking across Facebook ads. Or any tracking whatsoever on the user. So there's now features in iOS 14, for example, where you can actually disable all that. So having a lot of these, smaller payments platforms, again, ways for people to generate a little bit of revenue. But again, you're going to need an audience for this one. So that is only tweets. So I've got a link there for that one. Now the second one, Jim, I don't know if you want to bring this one up.
Sure. And it's, I guess it's Conan.
And I think it's pronounced combine.
Combine.
Combine, maybe? I don't know. Maybe? I don't know.
Somebody took the E website, so they had to drop the E. So I was thinking of like a comb, comb in.
That's what I was thinking too. I was going to say Komen.
But yeah, so this, Instagram marketing content planning solution lets you schedule, manage your growth, and it does have the ability to try for free. And so, so kind of some of the things it does, detects who doesn't follow you back, checks your audience quality, find target audiences, find influencers, the scheduling, you can get flexible post scheduling, dozens of stories in one click, and you can style your grid layout. I mean, Chelsea, you're a big Instagram user. I mean, what appeals to you about this, or do you think this is one of those things? Like I've never been one to style my grid, but I know there's a lot of Instagram creatives that like they kind of swear by it. That would require me to do a lot of thought.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know about this app because I'm looking at sort of like the growth section, because there's a ton of schedulers out there. You can use Instagram Creator Studio. Later is very reputable. Planoly is reputable. So there's a lot of schedulers already out there. I could see maybe somebody who wants to maybe grow a niche account quickly, or manages multiple accounts, maybe looking into something like this. Now, as far as I know, with the crackdown on Instagram, there were crackdowns on apps where you could do those mass unfollow. You could see who's following you and who's not following you, which quite frankly, you can do within the app. So this is more of like an efficiency type of play. And, I might be a little bit superstitious or conspiracy theory, whatever you want to call me, but does Instagram know if you're doing mass unfollows? It sure does. And does that impact something? Maybe, I don't know, maybe not. That's why I've had friends that have downloaded apps that do that and have gotten locked out of their Instagram account by merely downloading the app. Wow. So I'm not a big fan of automating the growth piece of it. Automating your scheduling, that could make a lot of sense for efficiency, especially if you have multiple accounts. Do I think there's anything unique about the scheduling piece of this? I haven't used it, obviously, but I think there's a lot of tools that help you with your grid layout if that's important to you. Now, the stories in one click, that would be interesting. I'm not exactly sure what that means. Maybe it's sort of graphics that you don't have to go and create in some other site like a Canva to create. But I would imagine it's still not posting it for you. As far as I know, there's nothing that posts stories for you. So I think the growth piece of that is mainly the potential differentiator between this and maybe some other ones.
And let's see the
and that's the thing. That's the one thing I wanted to.
Yeah, no,
I was going to say, Jim, that was the one thing I wanted to highlight as far as this, like, you could, we talked about this earlier about leveraging other tools, other apps to create something for another platform. That's what I can see this being useful for as well. Again, I mean, like, if you don't spend the time going through, for example, your audience, like, it's a game. I mean, you have to, when you start building your audience, you need to then spend the time to weed out the people that are on your, that are potentially following you, for example, and so forth at some point. Because you want to keep that quality score up there. So that's where I could see using a tool like this to help with some of that. But you don't necessarily need to use all of them, because, I mean, like, for example, if you want to schedule something, there are umpteen scheduling tools. If the grid layout is important, as Chelsea mentioned, hey, there's other tools as well for that. What's your take, by the way, on that, Chelsea? Do you care about the grid, or are people making a big deal about it?
I like it just because I like it, but I've had a very disjointed random grid. I mean, how often are people coming to your profile? It's kind of like a Facebook business page. Once I follow a business page, I'm never going back there. So if you like it and it makes your heart sing, then go for it. But to Jim's point, sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, I can't post this because I need to do this type of design next. You know what I mean? So I think if you like it and you're passionate about it, it's fun for you, then great, have at it. I would not spend time worrying about it, stressing about it at all, unless, maybe you're a vacation or lifestyle blogger who has quite a lot of followers. Then, I could understand maybe aesthetics might be a bit more important to you, but no, I wouldn't worry about it.
Well, and I think you bring up a great point. And even when we look at how Instagram's, I guess you want to say, behavior has changed, where it's much more about stories and now reels, are people, like you said, even going and looking at your grid? And so, maybe it's having that grid is not quite as important as maybe it was pre-stories and pre-reels.
Definitely. And again, I mean, these are all, the tools are suggestions. They're not saying, hey, this is exactly what you need to be using. We're trying to highlight ones that, might be able to help you. So I think as a business, if you've got a big Twitter presence, maybe you want to consider checking out only tweets. If you're very active and you actually get a lot of engagement, if Instagram is your thing and you're wanting to, we're not saying find shortcuts, but do things to improve potentially the quality of your account, for example, or even the audience, or helping you find the right, new people to follow, for example, check out the tool. If you're somebody who's not using either of the platforms. Yeah.
This scheduler, though, I do find interesting because it does say it's free for up to 15 accounts. So that might definitely be something worth checking into, that you actually are not having to pay for a scheduling tool that'll let you manage that many accounts. So for some agencies or small agencies, this might be worth checking into, because it does say you can do the stories, post and repost support, and that's a lot of times is a challenge for people. So I do think that's definitely something that's interesting.
Absolutely. So anything else you want to add, by the way, on these tools before we wrap things up?
I'm gonna check out that Twitter one. It's fascinating. See what that's all about. But that's only because I use Twitter a lot. I think it's LinkedIn, Twitter, and then the others I have to figure out what I want to do next.
No Instagram Reels for you, Jim?
I've done one. I've done one. I want to learn more, but it's like
I remember that because it was for the show, I think.
Yes, yeah. And I thought it was broken because I couldn't find the music, so we just had to do something. Because I was doing it on my business account.
I hope you were singing. Did you sing your own music?
No, it was funny. My wife and I were just going for a walk, and we were just saying, we're walking. We're walking, so that was funny. So I think that's where I see. I like the idea of Reels, but it's kind of like TikTok. Short form content's not necessarily my thing. So I have to figure that out, or just take longer form and cut it up. But it's a lot of work.
It is. It's more work, that's for sure.
Yeah. So Christian, any final
wrap
thoughts?
things up for you guys. If anybody has anything else to add, or we're good.
No, this has been great, Chelsea.
No final thoughts, actually. Just a couple of updates. I mean,
yeah. I have one update for everyone.
If they want to join the email list, again, they can join social. Yeah, what's up? What's up, Jim?
Well, we just released our latest episode of the podcast, and we've got 23 steps that you can take if you want to do a live stream. So make sure to check that out. We've had a lot of people wanting to know about that's on Launch Your Live. That was episode 30. So we really appreciate all the support we've been getting with the podcast. So so make sure to check that out on any of your favorite podcast players. We're not just a one-trick pony when it comes to the podcast.
So Chelsea, what's the best place for people if they want to get in touch with you? They have questions. They want to learn more about, obviously, the real estate aspect.
The best place to find me is on the gram. That's where I spend the most of my time and have a lot of helpful videos there if anybody wants to learn about Reels or any of the other aspects of Instagram. Okay. So you can find me by my name on Instagram. And I'm on all the platforms by my name. So if you like LinkedIn, I'll be there. If you like Facebook, I'll be there too.
Perfect. So if I can actually pull your account, let's see. So it's just at Chelsea Peitz, or is it?
Yeah, Chelsea.Peitz. There's a dot in between the first and last name.
Or so Chelsea.Peitz. Yes.
Yes.
I was like, it's not working. Okay, perfect. So if you have questions, you want to get in touch with Chelsea, here we go. And then Jim, what's the best place for people to get in touch with you as well if they have any questions?
Yeah, Twitter's a great place to connect with me there. And then I'll always, LinkedIn as well. Just look for Jim Fuhs, just like it's spelled. I claimed that long ago, so there's nobody else that can claim it. What about you, Christian? Where do we want to connect with you at?
Fantastic. So just a couple of updates. We're going to have the blog post recap at Social Chefs, actually, on all my channels, or at Launch Your Live as well for our show for the podcast. Just a couple updates, by the way. We'll have a blog post recap. I'm a little behind. I'm working on getting those out, but we have a blog post recap that will go out at some point. We've got the flash briefing and so on. And then in addition to that, next week, Jim, we're going to be joined by Diana Gladney, actually. We're going to talk a little live video, I think, with her, or maybe some video tips. So we're going to have her on. 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think do I have the date right and everything now? I got to get used to all this. So
Yes, you do have the date.
yeah,
correct.
so I think it's 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time next Thursday. YouTube.com/socialchefs. Yeah, fantastic. So Chelsea, I want to thank you for joining us this week on the show. Always a pleasure having you on. Love all the knowledge you always share with viewers. So thank you very much.
Thanks
Jen,
for having
thank
me.
you again as usual as
Thank
well.
you.
So
Thanks,
we will see. So we'll see you all. Sorry for the delay, by the way. So we'll see you all next week.